technology cannot do alone. It is a mix of technology, people, and business. A technology, if it is not aligned to people, if people are not mapped with the technology changes, the change management is not done, and it is not aligned to the business, it's again not going to be, successful implementation. So that's how the future of work is going to be. It's going to be hybrid, that's for sure. It's going to be very innovative.
Hi and welcome to another episode of the People Hum interview series. This is your host Vanessa Rose at People Hum. People Hum is an end-to-end one-view integrated human capital management automation platform, the winner of the 2019 Global Cody Award for HCM that is specifically built for crafted employee experiences and the future of work. We run the People Hum blog and the video channel, which receives upwards of 200,000 visitors a year and publish around 2 interviews with well-known names globally every month. We have with us today Namrata Dachmana. As a leader and a professional with an experience of 17 years, Namrata is an HR professional by heart who brings strength-based leadership and creates a culture of employee development and employee engagement. As an ex-army officer, she's a quick decision maker, a problem solver, and shows contagious energy to work, think, and plan till she takes a project till execution. With a mindset of diversity and inclusion, she believes in equal opportunities for everyone to grow and creates a culture of inclusion for every employee. Welcome, Namrata. We are thrilled to have you.
Thanks so much, Manisa. Pleasure is all mine.
So, Namrata, you've held the belief that in order to create and lead a life that's driven with purpose, it's essential to have certain values of leadership. So, could you just elaborate on that?
Yes, thanks for asking that question. I'll just start with one sentence. Leaders are either born or they're developed. Okay, so now coming back to your question, so you see any of the leader like Nelson Mandela, he led a purposeful life. Gandhiji, he led a purposeful life. Mother Teresa, Bachendri Pal, all of these leaders, they have led a purposeful life. So a purposeful life creates a long-lasting impact to improve the society and to lead the purpose for which these people wanted, these leaders wanted to have that kind of impact. Okay, so now they all stood against the odds. It was not an easy life, neither for Gandhiji or for Martin Luther King or for Nelson Mandela, or be it any leader, you name it, who have made that kind of impact. So now how could they stand against all the odds? It was a strong character. Okay, I'll come back to your question, but I'll just take a little brief about this. Now, in modern world, today's world, we have leaders who need to influence people in the organization, right? So we have people like Mr. Tata, we have people like Indra Nooyi, we have Kiran Bedi, Bachendri Pal, Steve Jobs, Mr. But even all other leaders also of any of the organization, right? So now all these people whom I have named, they all have created that kind of impact in their respective industries, in the corporate world. Now, I'll just take a little pause to make you and the viewers think that how were they able to make that kind of impact? It was only and only through the values that they were having. Gandhiji had a value of ahimsa. Okay. Bachendri Pal had that value of daring. We all know the story of Kiran Bedi, what kind of situations that she has led. And she also had a value of, dare to dream. And that's the reason why uh, they were able to create that kind of difference. So the values could be compassion. We take an example of Mr. Tata. The value could be disruptor and innovator. Steve Jobs created Apple. Then the value could be daring, as we can say for Bachendri Pal or for Kiran Bedi. So these are the value system through which a character is made. Okay, and that's why I'll just give you a flow chart to kind of simplify the entire thing. The first thing is the environment where we are born. The environmental factors which influences us, and thus our belief system is made, right? With belief system, our core values are created. The core values of having that spirit being imbibed, which through on which we just cannot compromise. Okay, with that core values, we have that kind of attitude which keeps getting developed once we identify that these are our core values. Once we have that attitude, that outlook is reflected to the entire world and to the society. And that's how we create our entire character. And that's how we make that kind of impact. Getting it, making it more narrow in an organization. If you believe that I will not do any kind of favoritism in the organization, everyone will be good. So what will be your value system? You will be unbiased. You will be transparent. That's how your character will get developed. So your belief system was made, your value was created, your attitude was created, and that's how your outlook was created. And once you will identify your core values, your attitude and outlook gets developed, your character will be influenced, and that's how in future, coming days to come, coming years to come, you'll have that kind of impact being made by becoming any of a maybe HR leader or business leader or any of the place they will be going, and that's how you are successful in life.
I like what you said. Leaders are not born; they're actually made. There are so many factors that influence us throughout our life.
Yes, there are a lot of factors influence, and these factors are influenced with the environment where we are born.
So you've also mentioned that your energy to work, think, and plan is very contagious, and that's great because I'm sure our viewers and listeners must be intrigued to learn the efficient ways to
Yeah.
plan and execute. So could you let us in on that?
So my experiences are numerous. So I'll tell you about myself. I'm a full-time employee in a loan mortgage in the US loan mortgage industry. I recently got honorary membership with to lead a corporate social responsibility council at Telangana at a state level, and I have 20 council members with me. That's again added responsibility. I'm presently writing an article for an Australian magazine as well. I've been onboarded as speakers as well on various places and platforms. I even coach. So, what drives me? My core value of being passionate, right? And I just do each and everything with that kind of zeal, with that kind of passion. So, now coming back to your question that how to plan and how to execute, we have 24 hours in our day. So now a lot of small little things, if I may just let you know so that it can be helpful to you and to all the other viewers. 24 hours a day and 7 days a week. How are you planning a day? Any day which has been planned and which has certain kind of aim and certain kind of timelines will make you achieve what you want in a day, in a week, in 3 months, in 6 months. In any classical interview you go, it's been asked that, okay, where do you see yourself after 5 years down the line? As a good HR leader, I'll ask you that. Okay. And you'll also come with that preparation that, okay, I'm going to say this, right? But then just go back and just have a little introspection done that how well are we leading each and every single day? What time are we getting up? What time are we taking a rest? Along with that, you're talking about the energy levels. How well are we eating? So even this passion of me, which is my core value, I'm even passionate even when I'm eating. So that the amount of food that you are eating with that kind of passion and with that kind of mindfulness will lead you to increase your energy. So now, what time you're getting up? What are you doing in the morning to rejuvenate yourself? What is your time? What is the aim of the day? Are you having some kind of purpose, or you're just getting up and going for a paycheck for your organization? So it's pay versus paycheck. Okay, P versus P. I always call it P versus P. So purpose versus paycheck rather. I'm sorry. And so purpose versus paycheck. And if you have a purposeful day, then definitely you're going to have a better life. You're going to have a better execution. And if you're only and only going for a paycheck, then the energy levels will get depleted. So it's a simple thing of planning a day, having a aim, having a purpose, and be mindful of your timelines, be mindful of what you're eating, and your energy levels will be manifolded.
Yeah, that's so true. So you're saying if you have a purpose, everything that you do automatically aligns with that purpose.
Yeah, because that also drives you with, you know, uh, again with values. So
Right.
once you have your values moves you from fear to transparency.
Hmm.
Okay, from as a leader, from power to relationship building.
Hmm.
As a leader, when I also when I have a purpose, so till now what I was speaking for you. So as a leader, I am having my value of from power to relationship, instead of just being,
Hmm.
influencing power. I'm creating more, emphasizing more on having the relationship building. Then this also leads me to uncertainty to understanding,
Hmm.
creating that environment of uncertainty to my from my team members, to an environment of understanding and making them align that, what is actually required, what is the purpose that these people are coming with. So that's what I have just trying to answer you. I hope you are able to
Oh yes,
get
yes,
some
definitely.
message.
Yeah, this is very interesting. So, as a leader yourself, how can leaders be more conscious in the workplace when it comes to that diversity and inclusion?
Yes, diversity is a very very topic. It's a very inclusive topic, I would rather say. And It's something very close to my heart. So coming to your question, handling the pillar of D&I, now it does not mean only a women. It also includes LGBTQs. It also includes PWDs. It also includes veterans.
Hmm.
It also includes people with different race and color. So now with all these people who are coming, with what mindset a leader is hiring all these people?
Hmm.
Is Are leaders conscious enough to have that kind of efforts that they are able to make, to understand their talents, to understand that hey, they are also looking for career. So the leaders need to understand and need to have that kind of visible commitment and humility and even awareness of the biases. See, this D&I pillar was created because there were certain biases for all these categories or all these communities that I have spoken. So leaders really need to be very conscious that they have certain biases, they and they need to be more conscious while hiring these people. And ultimately they all are human beings, they all want their career path as well. So that kind of awareness and that kind of conscious movement, that kind of mindfulness in their minds, in the minds of leaders should be there to have that kind of impact, to hold the pillar of D&I. Then there's something called conversational IQ, which leaders should possess. How are they communicating to them? When we are hiring a LGBTQ, are we making them comfortable without making them obvious, without asking them? So that kind of study, that kind of understanding, that kind of empathy mapping from a leader is expected to ensure that the another word which is associated with D as diversity is inclusive. That kind of culture is created. D&I was created to ensure that yes, we are hiring diversity, but
Hmm.
then the inclusiveness will be done only and only when that kind of conscious effort, conscious mindset will be applied by the leaders to create that culture of inclusiveness, to create that culture of growth, and to create that culture of oneness
Yeah.
to make the organization grow. So I think that's what I'm going to that's going to be my take, and that's always my take whenever I hire any of a diverse resource. And speaking about self, for me, everyone is diverse.
Yeah.
Everyone come with their different talents, and that's why I always say that everyone is diverse, and we leaders really need to be very very conscious as to handle our human resource capital who are actually driving business. So with this, I'll take a pause. Otherwise, diversity is a very very elusive pillar to be held in the organization.
Yeah. And that was a very interesting answer, Namrata. Yeah, diversity and inclusion are very different terms, and leaders have to be conscious, at each step.
Thank you.
So,
Thanks.
how do you think we as individuals can begin to think out of the box, and how can
Yeah,
that help us in our professional lives?
great. So if you have heard about Steve Jobs,
Mm-hmm.
okay, so he also led a purposeful life. And I always take Steve Jobs as a disruptor
Mm-hmm.
in the industry of mobile. How and why? He created one device which diffused camera, which diffused use of even a music system. So in one device, he gave you a music system. In one device, he gave you a camera, and in one device he gave you a calling facility as well. So how could he do that? By thinking differently, by thinking out of the box. So when he can do, why can't you and me can do? In a simple organization at every level, just by being a divergent thinker, just by thinking differently. How do you think differently? By just understanding the requirement of the other person. So if you want a car, Vanessa, and you're looking for nano, okay, and I come with my all the kind of requirements, and with my understanding, and with my take of having the luxurious car, and try to sell you Mercedes, will you take it? Yes. So a simple thing is, I have to think for my stakeholders. Okay, I have to think, and these stakeholders need not to be customers or buyers. These stakeholders for me as a HR leader, or as a business leader, can be my uh, team also. This stakeholder can be my at home, can be my family also. Okay, so to make them aware that this is what I have got for you when I'm speaking to my team, will make me a divergent thinker. So when you are working in an organization and you are delivering something to your customer, if you will keep if you'll keep pushing and posing what you have created, they will never be interested, right? You have to think and put yourself in the other person's shoes to sell your product. In many of the organizations we have seen, we have so many tools technology wise, and the technology will say that we have created so many tools, but they're useless. They're useless because you never created for as per the requirement of a user. Now if a user is not using, and the user is not liking those tools, then they'll remain useless. So as a divergent thinker, or as a thinking out of the box, you have to stop thinking what you are thinking. You have to put yourself in the other person's shoes, think out of the box. It cannot be a single alone process. You can do brainstorming. You can walk up to that person and can just ask that, hey, I'm preparing this tool for you. You can prepare some questionnaires, and you can ask them that this is what I'm planning to do. Is there anything that you wish to add on here? So this is how you can slowly develop your thinking out of the box. With this, where I'll go back to the example of Apple, which is really a brilliant device. I really like that device. There is something called creative confidence. Okay, if you have ever seen a child, he will always think out of the box. He will never ever abide by what his parents or her parents are telling them. He will always have that why. That why I'm doing this, then why not this? He'll build a castle of a sand. He will build a castle of small little pebbles. And how can he do all these things? By thinking differently. Once he start growing, again his belief system start building upon that, hey, it cannot be done, it will be done only by this. And there we are doing the destruction of having that creative confidence being built upon, or being nourished. And that's how slowly and slowly that creative confidence being out of the box starts getting diminished. So again, the examples could be many. I mean, I can. This is again something very close to me, and I can really speak on and on and on. As a coming back to your question, as a HR, if I am interacting with my employees or with my communication team, I may keep making policies, but they are not aligned with the employees or with the external stakeholders. The employees will never be happy. Now they are changing the designations of HR chief happiness officer and chief wellness officer, because now they're realizing the importance of emotional well-being. So what is this? This is just thinking out of the box. This is just thinking loud. So we need not to have the pandemic to come and to make us and lead us think out of the box. We can do our brainstorming sessions. We can just empathize. Empathy is a very big factor for the person for whom you're working, be it at home, be it in the office, in the organization, for your clients, for your users. And you can slowly start developing this thinking out of the box, and can have improvement in your efficiency, increase your productivity, and can improve the EBITDA of your organizations.
Yeah, that's right. So it's not about actually trying to create a solution, but actually trying to solve a problem. That's very true.
Yes, it is actually so trying to solve a problem that what are they looking for, what are you looking for. If I keep selling my Mercedes Benz and then I say, hey, Vanessa is not buying it, it has got everything, but Vanissa's requirement is of nano or of small medium car. So I failed in thinking as per my client or as per my user. And instead of being the best of my capability, the car will fail in the market.
It all comes down to intent. So thank you so much for those examples.
Thank you. Thanks, Vanessa.
Also, do you have a quote that defines your feelings the best way about the future of work, the workplace, and you?
See, for myself, it is I'm energy. So for me, my favorite quote is I'm energy, and because it's infinite, and I always say that I'm not going to retire, because my energies will keep getting manifolded. And since I'm a passionate person, so that's how I will keep adding it on. Future of work definitely is getting changed, will change. The core values of empathy, the core values of EQ, the core values of EI, which were never valued, which were just considered as a word spoken or a bespoken words, are being valued upon now. The compassionate leadership, the servant leadership has started, and the leaders have become mindful. The soft skills have become more important because you all are working remotely. One cannot be one has to be a leader, has to be a conversationally intelligent. They have to give they have started giving importance to the opinions of team members. They've started taking their opinions instead of just pushing them, that what the leaders are asking for. So that's these are the things we are going to have changes in the future of work. And apart from all these kind of soft skills, the technology is evolving. The technology has to be evolved. The human capital needs to get aligned with a fast changing technology. But I always say that technology cannot do alone. It is a mix of technology, people, and business. A technology, if it is not aligned to people, if people are not mapped with the technology changes, the change management is not done, and it is not aligned to the business, it's again not going to be, successful implementation. So that's how the future of work is going to be. It's going to be hybrid, that's for sure. It's going to be very innovative. And rest, I'll take a pause because it is actually VUCA, and it's we really do not know what is going to what and how 2021 going to be and how 2022 going to be. But yes, it has really taught us to be extremely fast in our thinking, extremely fast in adaptability, and these are the kind of soft skills which are really in demand. And these are the soft skills which were undervalued and have started being valued upon. And the discussion, the forums, the people have started, leaders have started understanding about the importance of, all these soft skills which have started coming up now in the market.
Yeah. That was some really nice advice, and thank you for such an insightful conversation, Amrita.
Thank you, it was all pleasure. Thanks a lot.
It was great talking to you. We look forward to talking to you again.
Same here, Vanessa. Likewise, I hope I could bring some value to you and to all the other viewers.
Yeah, I'm sure, definitely.
Thanks.